You see him on the news.
CNN.com contributor, Dean Obeidallah. So, Dean...
Watch him at comedy clubs.
When I say Mecca, do you think of a holy place or an urban clothing line?
Read his articles. And you hear him on the radio. The Dean Obeidallah Show is on live right here on SiriusXM Progress, Channel 127.
And welcome to the show, brothers and sisters of the resistance and my fellow patriots. Friday, October 26th, I'm Dean Obeidallah, here to be your MBFF. Obviously, we know the big story, but quick reminder, daily reminder, we are 11 days away, just 11, from the most important election of our lives. The stakes have never been higher, let's be clear, and the GOP leadership is silent after the biggest coordinated terrorist wave of attacks on U.S. soil since 9/11, and they are silent because they don't want to upset their base. They don't want to lose their energy. So you know what? We're going to make them hear us because we're going to go out and vote on Election Day. And we're going to take the House back, maybe the Senate, numerous governorships, and begin our way to 2020. Don't forget, Election Day, not just Election Day this year, Judgment Day. And you can see what's going around this nation right now. It is off the charts. So obviously, today, 56-year-old registered Republican and huge Trump supporter, Cesar Sayoc, arrested. He was charged with 5 crimes, including interstate transportation of explosives and threatening a former president. He faces up to 58 years in life, might get more charges. A man that age, that means that's the rest of his life in prison. Now, here's Jeff Sessions today on the use of political violence. Here is clip number 1.
But let this be a lesson to anyone, regardless of their political beliefs, that we will bring the full force of law against anyone who attempts to use threats, intimidation, and outright violence to further an agenda. We will find you, we will prosecute you to the fullest extent of the law.
That's right. Jefferson Beauregard Sessions is throwing down his white glove, and you know it's white, to say if you threaten violence, he's going to get you. Any political violence. Well, Jefferson Beauregard Sessions, you might want to look at the guy in the White House with the orange head because he said a lot of stuff like this. Let's hear clip number 2.
Knock the crap out of him.
Like to punch him in the face.
Would have done well, but I would have been boom, boom, boom. I'll beat that.
I don't know if I'll do the fighting myself or if other people will.
Maybe he should have been roughed up, because it was absolutely disgusting what he was doing.
If you see somebody getting ready to throw a tomato, knock the crap out of them, would you? Seriously.
Yep, message heard. That's right. No doubt, Cesar Sayoc heard that message. And then here was Jeff Sessions asked, what is the motivation of Cesar Sayoc? By the way, if you haven't seen his van, it is a Trump MAGA billboard truck. It is unreal what's on it. We'll talk about it more. And here's Jeff Sessions, at first trying not to say what the motivation is, but then kind of lets it slip out. Clip number 3.
Attorney General Sessions, could you tell us plainly why was he targeting Democrats?
I don't know, other than what you might normally expect. He may have been appears to be a partisan.
He appears to be a partisan. He appears to be a partisan. That's like saying Trump appears to be a bigot. This is over-the-top stuff, folks. And here's the reality. Let's get to the real issue that I want to talk about. And by the way, I moved our guests. We're not going to have any guests for the first 90 minutes because I want to hear from you. You are the guest in the first 90 minutes. Then we're going to have Andy Slavitt, who ran the ACA and Medicare and Medicaid for Obama, to talk about Medicare for all. How does it really, really work in a nonpartisan way? But here, let's get to the real point here. Donald Trump radicalized the MAGA bomber. Yep, let's be blunt. There's no time to play around. No need to be PC. Donald Trump radicalized the MAGA bomber the same way ISIS radicalizes people. The big difference, though, is that ISIS is actually involved in plotting the actual terrorist attack. Donald Trump was not involved in that. What Donald Trump does, though, is radicalize people through a drumbeat of hateful comments, ginning them up, getting disgusted, angry, and takes them to the doorstep of violence, and then lets them walk through it on their own. And that's what Cesar Sayoc did. There's no doubt about that. You know, and again, I say this as someone, and I mentioned this last week, before this whole bombing thing, last week I attended a full-day conference on preventing violent extremism. And I came back and I told you that Donald Trump and these experts, who were amazing world-renowned experts on ISIS, Al-Qaeda, and white supremacy, did not mention Donald Trump's name once, but was very clear that Donald Trump my takeaway was that he recruits his base and gets this passionate following is by using the exact same techniques of these extremists. And what they do, it's threefold. Very simple. And tell me if these ring a bell, and we'll go through how they actually are. The extremist groups first play on a person's grievance. This is all the experts. It's not me making this up. This is all experts. They play on the person's grievance, such as the West has wronged them, and their culture is under attack. Next, the ISIS or Klan recruiters will play on a person's identity. They touch on their identity. In the case of white supremacists, it's their white race. In the case of ISIS, it's religion. And finally, these recruiters will offer these people, many of them who already have lost their way in life, a purpose, something bigger and better than themselves, to be involved, something involving greatness, at least in their mind. Well, that's what Donald Trump has done, either by design or by accident, but I'd have to say by design. I mean, Donald Trump is someone who understands how to connect with a subset of Americans in ways that we are stunned by. As progressives, what he is saying, the dog whistles and the heated rhetoric and the bigotry disgusts us. But to his base, it energizes them. We are wired differently, and he understands that. And let's talk about a few things. Donald Trump has done the same thing, playing on grievance. We see that time and time again, from grievances of things like lost jobs to globalism, to things like demographic change in the country, to even conservatives not being treated fairly on social media. Those are grievances. Trump plays on them. In fact, today he played on social media saying Twitter is being unfair to conservatives. Second, he plays on and uses race and religion. As opposed to ISIS and white supremacists, they do one or the other. He does both. Donald Trump attracts, through his message, both white Americans and Christian Americans. And I'm talking about conservative to very, very conservative ones. For example, shortly after being sworn in as president, Donald Trump vowed to prioritize Christian refugees being allowed into America, saying Christian refugees have been horribly treated. Add to that his Muslim ban. 65% of Republican voters supported a total and complete ban on Muslims. Why? He's playing on their Christian faith because they view America as a Christian nation, and any other faith, especially Islam, which they view as political, somehow can affect their control of the United States. So you've got that. Then you've got, on race, countless examples of Donald Trump playing on people's white race and their fears of demographic change, using terms like chain migration, which I've written about, comes right from white supremacist literature. That's their weaponization of an intellectual academic term, chain migration, political weaponizing white nationalism, to things like Donald Trump literally calling Confederate statutes beautiful, tweeting they are beautiful, and refusing to denounce David Duke, and saying both sides are bad in Charlottesville. Let's not play games. Donald Trump knows what he's doing. Third, like ISIS and the Klan, he promises these people, many who have sincerely lost their way, a chance to make up for that, a chance to be part of something bigger than themselves, something great. Why not help me make America great again? All three things are all there. You don't need to be an expert. I heard this from countless experts, but they didn't mention Trump by name, to be clear, at this conference. It was not political. This is the same playbook extremists use. And at, say, Klan rallies, the way they bond the people even more together, how do they do it? Same clothing, a white hood, same type of chants, like white power, or German chants. Trump rallies, a red hat, and chants like CNN sucks, lock her up. What is the beauty of those chants? Why does Trump like those chants? Because he understands what he's doing. It's groupthink. He is unifying 500 or 1,000 or 5,000 or 10,000 people to be one person by chanting like that. And he knows they're chanting for him. So we've got that. There's no doubt. Now, here is the big difference from a legal point of view between Donald Trump and an ISIS or a Klan recruiter. ISIS and white supremacist leaders are often involved in the actual planning of terrorist or violent attacks. Hence, they are charged with those crimes. Donald Trump, we played the clips, is more general in his calls for violence. Yes, they were specific at a rally, but I'll break down legally from a lawyer point of view what it takes to actually be held criminally liable or even civilly liable for words like Donald Trump has said. For example, Trump said, "I'd like to punch him in the face." And he has defended violence after his rallies with comments like the audience hit back. That we need a little bit more of. In fact, one of the protesters at one of his rallies sued Donald Trump personally and the campaign for getting hurt at a rally where Donald Trump yelled, "Get him out of here, get him out of here," and they beat the guy up. Well, that lawsuit was going through the federal courts. Just last month in September, Federal Court of Appeals dismissed the lawsuit, granting Trump's motion. And why? The federal court did say this. In the ears of some supporters, Trump's words may have a tendency to elicit a physical response. You have a federal court actually saying this. Donald Trump's words, like "get him out of there," might have a tendency to elicit a physical response, meaning beating someone up. But the court noted, unless Trump explicitly calls for violence, he will not be civilly responsible. This is a civil lawsuit. Hence, for a criminal lawsuit, it's even a higher standard. You have to specifically advocate for someone to take an unlawful act to be charged as a criminal co-conspirator. So Donald Trump demonizing CNN nonstop, and this guy, the MAGA bomber, having on his van, "CNN sucks," and pictures with crosshairs of people that Donald Trump has demonized, from Hillary Clinton, Obama, and others. And that man acting on that and sending bombs to those people, if those bombs could work or not, doesn't matter. Sending those bombs, there's no doubt there's a connection between Donald Trump and that, but not enough to criminally prosecute Donald Trump. And that's the reality. And this man, the MAGA bomber, like many terrorists, like the ones in Belgium, the ones in ISIS there, who had lost their way, who had a prior criminal record, who were not religious at all. They had lost their way. They had a prior criminal record. Things were not working out. ISIS came to them and said, "Your faith is under attack. Join us. Make something of your life." They did. This man, same way. Mr. Sayak here, his life was a mess. He had a prior criminal convictions. He had filed for bankruptcy a few years ago, was living with his mom. He may have been living in his van. So the chance to make something of himself by perhaps killing a former president or targeting, at least terrorizing those that his beloved Trump hates, the exact same appeal of joining ISIS, the exact same appeal of the Klan. But Donald Trump is not legally responsible. Is he morally responsible, though? That's the big question. And I say absolutely yes. Absolutely. I say the GOP leadership is morally responsible because tell me, have they had a press conference? Have you seen Mitch McConnell and Paul Ryan and Republican leaders having a mass press conference to make it clear to their base there's no place for this type of violence? No. And they won't, because we're 11 days from election and they're afraid they will turn off even a teeny percentage of their base who might not come out and vote, and then they can lose the Senate because they're going to lose the House and they might even lose the Senate. So they've put politics over the safety of our fellow Americans. That's where we are. And here's another rub in all this. I'm Muslim. Every time there's a Muslim terrorist, these people on the right, the Trumps and the Ryans and the McConnells and the right-wingers and the RNC chairs say, how come Muslims aren't denouncing terrorism? It's committed by a Muslim. This was a terrorist attack by a registered Republican who literally has a van that looks like it's designed by Donald Trump. And I didn't hear the RNC chair having a press conference. Don't tweet condemnations. That's BS. We know it is. Have a press conference. You've demanded Muslims go to the street and have a rally saying we denounce terrorism. Where's your rally? Where are the Republicans to stand up? They're nowhere. And the worst part of the fact they're not anywhere is that it's by design. It's calculated because we're 11 days from an election and they can't spare even one vote because that's how close this election is. If it was a year away from an election, perhaps they would have done the right thing, but they won't. And, the worst parts in all of this, Donald Trump won't change. He's muted today for a little bit. He'll be back. Today he was tweeting attacking CNN before they found out who did it. He knew there were terrorist attacks. He was tweeting at 3 a.m. Funny how lowly rated CNN and others can criticize me at will, even blaming me for the current spate of bombs and ridiculously comparing this to September 11th. And then he went on to say about politics here, Republicans are doing so well in early voting and at the polls, and now this bomb, and he put bomb in air quotes, stuff happens, and momentum greatly slows. News not talking politics, very unfortunate. What is going on? Republicans go out and vote. Donald Trump doesn't want to be our president. Donald Trump is not the president of the United States of America. Donald Trump is the president of his base. And here's the reality. And let me say this to Trump supporters. I mentioned this last night. I just want to say it again, just so it's clear, because now we know the person who did this was a Trump supporter who loved Trump, who was radicalized by Donald Trump. Do not get sucked into Donald Trump's attempt to radicalize you. Don't. Think about your family. Think about yourself. This man will go to jail for the rest of his life. Donald Trump will not. If you commit a horrible act of violence in the name of Donald Trump, you're going to go to prison. Donald Trump's not going to pardon you. He's not going to pardon this guy. It's just not going to happen. You will suffer and your family will suffer without you. Do not let Donald Trump radicalize you. It's the same thing I say to Muslims. I say to Muslims when I speak to younger Muslims, don't be sucked in by the lies of ISIS and Al-Qaeda, because they're out there and they're lying to you about what our faith is about. I'm saying the same thing to Republicans out there, Trump lovers who love him. I've talked to some of you. Do not get sucked into this. We are fellow Americans. We disagree vehemently. We answer this not by bullets, not by bombs, but by ballots. November 6th, that's the day. We come out, we vote. And the winner wins. And that's the way it's got to be. It's a battle of ideas, not a ballot of bombs and bullets. So I say to the Trumpers who listen, I know the ones listening to this channel, I doubt you would ever do anything. I mean, sincerely. But you might have friends who are their life, they're lost and things aren't working out. And they think maybe I'll do something. I'll get my name in the media like this guy. Because that's sort of the motivation for the ISIS bombers and the terrorists. I can finally go out in a blaze of glory. Everyone's going to know my name. Even though I might be dead, I will get known. Don't let it happen. Help each other. See something, say something. It no longer just goes for brown people, folks. It goes for white people as well. So I want to know from you. I've talked a lot. You're my guest for the next full hour. And what do you think the response of Trump would have been if this man was a Muslim? Or if this man was a Latino immigrant? Or an undocumented immigrant who was trying to blow things up? What do you think his response would have been then? Do you think Donald Trump will tone down his rhetoric in any way? Should the GOP leadership be speaking out, or am I being unfair on that? I'd love to hear from you. 866-997-4748. 866-997-4748. Give me a call. Let's talk here on the Dean Obeidallah Show. You're my guest for the next hour. Let's be right back after this. Progressive values are the best of American values, and we need to keep fighting for them to save our country.
Don't go anywhere. This is the Dean Obeidallah Show on SiriusXM Progress 127. Dean's thoughts. Now it's your turn. 866-99-SIRIUS. 866-997-4748. This is the Dean Obadala Show.
On Sirius XM Progress 127.
And welcome back, Dean Obadala Show. We're live right here Friday, October 26th. And, you know, it's interesting. I tweeted earlier, "Dear Trump supporters, please don't fall for Trump's efforts to radicalize you to commit acts of terrorism like the MAGA bomber. I say this 100% sincerely. Trump doesn't actually care about you. He loves the threat of violence, but if you commit violence, you go to jail, not Trump." Same plea I just made here. I've made that plea. I'm Muslim American. I've made a very similar plea to Muslim Americans. Boris Epstein, who used to work in the Trump administration, is gone up very upset. Now, I know Boris. I'm not going to say we're friends, but we're friendly. Is very upset with my comment on Twitter saying the suspect was charged with bomb threats in 2003 and other crimes. Those facts don't fit your divisive, hateful, and blatantly political rhetoric, do they? My rhetoric was a sincere plea to Trump supporters that Donald Trump is trying to radicalize you, just like ISIS recruiters who are despicable want to radicalize people to violence. I made it also clear that Donald Trump is different. He does not get involved in the plotting of terrorist attacks. He takes people to the doorstep of violence. That's what he is doing. For me not to call that out would be a disservice to our nation. I don't serve Donald Trump. My goal, my love is this nation, not Donald Trump. Never. So Boris Epstein being upset that I'm making a plea, the same plea I've made to fellow Muslims, don't fall for the lies of ISIS and Al-Qaeda because they care about themselves and not you, is remarkable. It's also laughable that you have people like Boris and Trump supporters online upset that this man had committed crimes in the past, so this can't be radicalization by Trump. Meanwhile, most of the European ISIS terrorists who were born there have had criminal records. But I don't hear them making that same claim about them. In 2003, this MAGA bomber did some kind of bomb threat. We are 15 years later, and every person this man targeted were Donald Trump's enemies. That's who they were. Let's not play games. There's no need to. Let's rise above it. There's going to be a fringe of Trump supporters who don't care about other Trump supporters. Boris Epstein and Donald Trump don't care about you Trump supporters. I say that sincerely. Let's not play games. Do you honestly think as a Trump supporter, Trump really cares about you? Seriously, think about it. Do you think he really cares about you? A billionaire, 3 wives, cheats on his wife, filed for bankruptcy 7 times, lived this playboy lifestyle, could have served in the military, didn't, never did anything for this nation but profit and use our bankruptcy laws to benefit himself. Do you really think he cares if you go to jail for him? He doesn't. You know he doesn't. And some small percentage might think he does. That's your choice. But guess what? You go to prison the rest of your life. Your family's without you. And Donald Trump remains president until 2020 or until he's impeached or until he resigns. That's the truth. So I sincerely did a tweet earlier, and I meant that. I couldn't squeeze in there that I'm also a Muslim. I made the exact plea to fellow Muslims. I'm able to do it here because it's longer. I'm not playing games when I say that. I'm being honest. I've studied extremism. I've written about it, not just been to one conference, to many conferences. I've been the target of extremists, white supremacists and neo-Nazis who've made death threats against me. I've seen extremism attack Muslim community in that ISIS and Al-Qaeda have stolen young people from my community. And I've seen the backlash caused to my community by bad people out there who happen to be Muslim. My goal is not to score political points here. I say that sincerely. In 11 days, we have a chance to change this nation. And that's what it's about. Let's just change this nation and we're going to move on. And at some point, we're going to look back at the Trump presidency as a blight on the soul of America, the same way we look back at Supreme Court decisions like in the Dred Scott decision, where black people were viewed as property by our Supreme Court, and slavery and Jim Crow. That's the way we'll look back at the Trump administration, that it was a dark time. We can't believe that's where Americans' head were at the time, but it happened. But we're going to move forward because the beauty of this nation is our history tells us this one thing that is true. Even when we take steps backwards, we keep moving forwards. Ultimately, we keep moving forward. The arc of justice, it's bending forward with us. I know I'm paraphrasing. All right, let's take some more. Let's take some calls here. Here's Robert from Chicago. Robert.
Hello?
How are you, my friend?
Hello?
Hello, Robert. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Fine.
I just wanted to say that, this has been coming for a long time, and we're really, I don't think, seeing how deeply this has already, gone. has been the Republicans' plan all along, and they've worked towards this for years. Donald Trump was maybe a happy accident that he could come along and speed it up, but they know they're losing their demographic. They're quickly being outnumbered, not by a single minority, but by all the minorities. And this is their last act of desperation to hold on to power. They don't care what they do to do it.
I don't know. It's one guy. If there was a wave of violence by Trump supporters, I'd be more inclined to say that they're at that point where they'll do anything. But I will say this. They have no problem suppressing the vote of African Americans and Latino Americans and young people who don't have money for IDs. There's no doubt about that. They will use legal maneuvers. This man is an outlier. I mean, he is a true Trump supporter. He's a registered Republican. We're not playing games. That's who he is.
Right.
But I want to believe he's the exception. I've heard a lot of passion from Trump supporters. I've spoken to some here. They scream and yell. I've gotten death threat today. I got an email I can read in a little bit from people earlier this morning because of a CNN article. I've gotten countless. Will some of them commit violence? I'm not sure. I'm hoping, I'm hoping that they won't. I mean, is your sense, Robert, that they will?
Well, I do. I mean, what do you think is going to happen when the election's over, when Mueller's investigation's over, and Trump's charged and forced to resign like they think he will be? The backlash is going to be immense, and I think it's going to be worse than anybody's thinking. And I think this is just an indication of what's right under the surface. Listen, racism runs deep here. And it runs deep, I believe, because way back to the Civil War, when that war was over, instead of punishing the Confederate generals and people responsible, we tried to make nice and say, okay, well, the war's over, let's all get back together. When I'm not sure that was the right idea. We have higher racism and more racism in America than my friends put up with in Europe or in Canada. And there's a reason for that. We never, in the beginning, at the end of the Civil War was our time to call the traitors traitors, punish the rebels for the treason that they committed, and move forward.
I don't know if that would have made it. You think that would have made a difference to today? You actually think through today that would have resonated through generations?
I think it would have for generation after generation. For one thing, I get so sick and tired, Dean, of this Southern pride thing and these Confederate monuments. What are they so proud of? 3% of the richest people in the South convinced 500,000 Americans, poor Americans, to commit treason.
Yeah.
Basically defending the right to have free labor, okay?
Right.
And then after it was all over, we allowed Jim Crow to continue and the so-called Daughters of the Confederacy to put up monuments that were supposed to be in remembrance of their forefathers. All they really were cheap reminders to the black people that were still in the South that, hey, we don't love you. This ain't over. And we should have had
so we can't go backwards, Robert. We can just speculate if that would have made a difference or not. And I agree with you, some of the pride of Southerners. I just saw there's a documentary coming on HBO Monday that I saw an advanced copy where they interviewed some people in Charlottesville, and a guy there who was one of the sort of like the maintainers of the Confederate statues said, well, we want these statues because these people are veterans. I'm like, our veterans? They took up arms against the United States of America, and they killed Americans. But I don't want to have that discussion because that's different. So where do we go in the future, Robert? Let's talk about the future. What do you think?
Here's what I think now. If we manage to take the House and possibly the Senate, honestly, I think the first order of business needs to be, there's got to be some laws on the books or something done about all the false propaganda. If people hated Hillary because they had 8 years to throw mud at her for nothing she ever did wrong. And honestly, if you were to come and not know anything about American politics and look at two resumes of Donald Trump and Hillary Clinton, one is grossly overqualified and one shouldn't even be there with a resume. Think about it. But they managed in 8 years with all this money that they're pouring in from these right-wing super PACs and the BS, the lies that people are willfully spreading, which should be illegal. Politicians in Britain are not allowed to tell a lie about another politician. They'll go to jail for that. Okay? Something's got to be done about the false propaganda because, the amount of stuff they threw at Hillary that stuck. People hate Hillary Clinton. They have no idea why they hate her.
The level of hate for Hillary is, I think it actually eclipses Obama on some level. And maybe because Obama was leaving, but I actually think that their fixation on Hillary is something I've never seen. And Hillary's a strong woman, so she can deal with it. But still, it makes no sense, and it's heartbreaking. It's wrong, and I don't know why. And they ginned it up for years.
In the last 50 years, can you think of anyone that's run for president that was more qualified than Hillary Clinton?
I mean, even President Obama at the DNC speech said no one, not even your husband Bill, is more qualified than her. And that all the work she's done as a Secretary of State, as a senator, as the First Lady, where she was there and right.
Yeah.
So I agree, Robert.
Got to be done about the rhetoric. And we've got to start calling these races out every single time. You and I
call them out all the time. That's why I get hate mail.
So I get death threats on Facebook all the time. It doesn't bother me a bit. I'll go out just like you said. I'll go out like that. I'll fight on the side of the Muslims and the black people and the Mexican people and everybody besides these hateful Nazis. I can't stand the fact that we lost how many World War II people in World War II fighting Nazis and fascism for these punks to come back here and salute Hitler and carry swastikas around.
I agree. It's off the charts. So, all right, my friend Robert, nice chatting with you. I appreciate it.
All right, thanks. Thanks for what you do, Dean.
Thank you, and thank you too. We're all in this together. We're all brothers and sisters in this resistance. We are the patriots. I got this email this morning after a CNN article from a guy who wrote, "It is because of vermin scumbags just like you that people hate the liberal media and believe 100% the liberal media is the enemy." And then he said, "So go cry, liberal media crybabies. You get exactly what you degenerate pieces of shit deserve. Stop whining, bitch." This was one of many emails I've gotten lately. This was this morning. And it was no surprise that Donald Trump last night was attacking CNN at 3 in the morning. So his base hears it, and they go find CNN people. And I've written countless articles about Donald Trump, criticizing him since the campaign, trying to warn people during the campaign of what I was seeing. And some people thought it was all fun, Trump. I didn't think it was fun from day one. Right away, I'm like, stop treating this guy like a Kardashian. He's running for president. Take him seriously. Then they took him seriously for ratings to make money, not the way they should have. And this is where we are. People have always gotten hate mail, sure. The level, when you're getting someone calling you vermin, and you think about Nazi propaganda, and they use terms like that to describe Jews, it was done so they could dehumanize them and then kill them. And that's what Trump is emboldening. So will this guy ever do anything? I hope not. I mean, a week ago, I had a guy who was so upset with my CNN article. He wanted to fight me and said, "I will come up anywhere in New York. Let's fight." I'm like, "I'm not going to fight you." I'm like, I actually respond, like, "I don't know what's wrong with you. We're not going to fight." He goes, "Give me an address." So I gave him an address to meet, and I gave him a date, and it was the local police precinct. I'm like, "I'll meet you there." And I didn't hear back from him. There is anger. There's anger on our side, too. We have to be honest. We're in a time of extreme hyper-partisanship. And I think for us, and I say it every day, the stakes have never been higher. And I'm not being hyperbolic. I've never said that before. I've never truly felt that our nation and the values of this nation that my father and grandparents came to this country for, that so many people have come to this nation for, so many people believe in when you're born here and you're raised, this nation stands for something special. All of that is under attack by Donald Trump. And it's not just rhetoric, folks. If it was just rhetoric, we could deal with it. It's policy. From a Muslim ban to wanting to ban transgender Americans from the military, now to actually want to eradicate transgender Americans as a people in his own way, not killing them, but eradicating their definition so they get no protections, to policies with women, undermining the Me Too movement, and policies, you go through the list from the environment to making the environment more dangerous for your children and your grandchildren, because Trump wants to get a few more jobs in a few red states. And you can go through the list. It goes on. And you know when the chickens come home to roost in terms of policy is after this year, when the deficit is going higher and higher and higher because of the GOP tax cut. And what happens? People like my mom who are on Medicare are going to suffer because they're going to have to come back to Republicans will come back and go, "We got to cut this." Now we have the House. They can't do the cuts. But if they can, they will. People on Medicaid. If they can go after, I don't want to play games about Social Security, but Mitch McConnell has said they will look at everything if they control the House and the Senate to reduce the deficit. The deficit's off the charts. And by the way, I was telling people weeks ago that today, and we lost it completely in the news, the GDP report would come out for the last quarter. To remind people, 3 months ago when we got that gross domestic product report, which is simply a measure of our economic output as a nation, it was 4.2%, I'm sorry. Today, down to 3.5%. Nearly a 20% drop in the GDP. Stock market down nearly 300 points today. All the Dow Jones gains of 2018 are gone. They're gone, folks. So now you average 2 years together and the stock market's not so great. Real unemployment, not this top line one, creeped up this last month up to 7.5%. That's not a made up number. Go to CNBC. It's right there. Real unemployment has creeped up to 7.5%. I'm not saying we're on the verge of a collapse, but things are getting tighter for different reasons. Higher interest rates, job market's tighter. Wages are not going up, though. Inflation is going up. Where are we going on all this? I mean, usually when things are like this, Trump files for bankruptcy, but he can't do it. So he's stuck here. And we know Donald Trump will use fear. He needs fear because Donald Trump is cut from the same cloth as people through history who have used fear to stay in power. Who today, not just history, today, Sisi in Egypt, Putin in Russia, Erdogan in Turkey, Mohammed bin Salman in Saudi Arabia. We're seeing it right in front of our eyes. So, all right, let's take a quick break. Come back. I have a lot of time for calls, so don't go anywhere. You're my guest. I'll talk much less. Come back for the next 45 minutes. It's all you. I'll take just calls. Be right back. Look, it's time the media start calling out Trump's false statements for what they are. Lies. Trump is a liar. And by the looks of it, he's lying every day and twice on Sundays.
The Dean Obadala Show. His show, your voice. 866-99-SIRIUS. 866-997-4748. Let's make a difference together. This is the Dean Obadala Show.
On Sirius XM Progress 127.
And welcome back, Dean Obadala Show. We're live right here. Unreal what is going on. And watching the the Trumpers online, and I don't care about the fringe, but like Boris Epstein, if you don't remember him, was in the Trump administration. He is now the talking head for the Trump administration on what's that stupid Matt? What's that network of all the Trump supporting syndicated shows? He's on every day. Everyone knows the name of it. They try to merge with someone else. But I'm saying, like, he's on air as a Trump supporter, and he is going crazy that not over my tweet about Donald Trump is radicalizing people to violence. Sinclair, he's the Sinclair Trump guy. He's on every day, many times a day. He wasn't upset with that. He was upset with me making a plea to Trump supporters saying, don't let yourself be radicalized by Donald Trump. Why would he be so upset by that comment? I don't get it. Because it was a sincere, and I remember I'm being 100% sincere in this comment. I would mean that. We are fellow Americans. Don't let Trump mislead you. Don't let him lead you astray. So, all right, quick thing here, folks. Look, it's winter. We all know it's getting colder here in New York. Today is really winter. Look, in many bedrooms, bedtime is complicated in the winter. One person's warm, the other is cold. Well, how do you correct that? Well, very simply. Make sure you get sheets that are breathable. And that's what Boll & Branch does. Boll & Branch. Makers of the world's most comfortable sheets. They make my sheets. They're fabulous. Unbelievably soft, warm, and breathable. The good thing about breathable, everyone stays the right temperature. No one's too warm, no one's too cold. And these flannel sheets they have just for the winter come in 14 beautiful patterns. You can look on the website and see them there. Plus, you can try them 30 nights and days, risk-free. If you don't love them, send them back, full refund. But I know you'll love them. Plus, you get a discount, $50 off your first set of sheets, plus free shipping. If you go to Boll & Branch, Boll and Branch.com. And when you check out, use promo code Dean. That's right, just promo code right there. It says promo code, type in Dean, $50 off. That's bollandbranch.com, promo code Dean. Let's take some more calls. Let's see, here's Jill from Florida. How are you, Jill? You're in the state of the guy. Jill, hello, Jill.
Hi, I'm here. Hi, Dean. How are you?
Fine. How are you doing?
I'm doing well. So in between your commercials, I tuned into Ari Melber, and I come across him speaking to this GOP woman from Nevada, and he quickly showed her these Trump supporters that a reporter asked them a question and basically said, so the bomber, he's been found now. And they go, no, he hasn't. Those bombs were sent by Hillary Clinton to herself. And everyone else, they sent them to themselves. And the reporter goes, but that's not what happened. They go, yes, that's what happened. And I'm watching this, and she's watching it. And so Ari keeps having to push her to finally admit and say, yes, the FBI did a great job. Yes, there really was a bomber. It takes so long for these people. I don't know what.
But the thing is, why does it's sort of like the media's obsession with why Trumpers think. We're going out to find out why Trumpers think. Why don't they ever go out and go, what do progressives think? How come our voice doesn't matter? Like all of a sudden they go out there to go, we're going to talk to Trump supporters in the wild, like it's some National Geographic of politics. What about us? They don't, and they're like, the liberals are in the media. Yeah, I'm in the media, but there's Fox News, the number one cable news network in the nation. This game that they're a victim. They have every chance through so many media outlets to get hurt. I don't care what a person who believes that Hillary Clinton was running a sex ring out of a pizza place outside of D.C. thinks. Honestly, I don't care. There are crazies out there. You go think whatever you want. I know there are more of us. We go out, we vote, because Jill trying to figure out their brain and getting their mind is ridiculous.
Oh, it's impossible.
Yeah, it's just frustrating.
Well, I did want to tell you that I voted today.
Oh, great.
And the exciting news is that I got there early. I was around 2 o'clock. And by 2:30, now I voted, I'm in Florida. So I live in Cooper City, which is actually also call it Fort Lauderdale. I'm southwest of Fort Lauderdale. I went to Weston, which is very west, to vote, and I didn't expect it. So at 2:30, I'm still voting because there's like 6 pages. I take a look up, and the line was literally out the door.
Have you ever seen like this? Have you ever seen a line like that, even in a presidential year?
No, not in Florida. As a matter of fact, that's what frustrates me so much in Florida as a Democrat, because I've been voting since I'm 18 years old. I'm 52, and I never miss a vote. And and that's why Rick Scott's been in for as long as he had, because the Democrats didn't come out and vote against him and get him out. And it's been such a hard 8 years with this man. And now he wants to run for Senate, and he's doing exactly what the other Republicans are doing. And if you already spoke about this, I apologize, but he's pretending that he's for keeping the what do you call it again, with the Obamacare, the pre-existing conditions. He's like, he's part of the lawsuit, and he's now saying in commercials, oh yeah, I'm going to keep those pre-existing conditions, and making up a whole story. I don't know who's buying it in the state, but I'm hoping that they're not, because this man has completely tried to dismantle everything, including causing the problem we have with the red tide that literally spread from the West Coast on the Naples side all the way to the East Coast.
And by the way, DeSantis, the guy running for Senate, up until a few weeks ago, literally denied climate change was happening or caused by human beings at all. In the latest thing on CNN, he said, well, something is happening. I'm not sure who's causing it. So he's kind of evolving, because all of a sudden he has to answer to voters who are living in Florida, where you're getting pummeled by more intense hurricanes because the water is warmer, because fossil fuels and human beings have resulted in more carbon in the air, and it slightly raises the temperature. And you keep slightly raising it, and this is what happens, more intensity of the storms. And Jill, one of the biggest lies we've seen in this cycle is Republicans saying that they're the ones that are going to protect coverage for pre-existing conditions. And I keep telling people, remind them what the Republicans used to brag about. The ACA was passed without even one single Republican vote. Not one Republican voted for it. That means not one single Republican voted to give you coverage for pre-existing conditions. That is the reason you have it, because of our ACA, because of Obamacare. There's also a reason you don't have caps anymore on your health insurance policies. That's because of the ACA. There's also a reason you keep your kids on the policy to 26. There's also a reason that your rates can't go up because you get sick. That's the way it used to be. Now we have community pricing. That's all because of the ACA. This ACA has been a godsend for people. And now the Republicans, despicably, who are trying to gut it, are trying to say, we're going to save it from the Democrats. We created it without your help. We've been defending it, and you've been bragging about voting 50 times to end it. So let's not play games. And if someone is that dumb to think that it's the Republicans that are saving your pre-existing coverage, then drop your insurance coverage. You don't deserve health insurance. Just go out there and risk your life in bankruptcy. That's what you deserve.
Right, I agree with you. And Rachel Maddow, she's the one that brought it to the attention, because she was doing the graph and she was showing what people care about. She's not talking about Democrats. Well, she's talking about everyone, Democrats, Republicans, Independents, whatever. It was just across the board. Everyone cares about health care as the number one issue. It's like 70%. So when she said that, she said, oh, she's like, finally, the Democrats are running on health care. And so what's been happening is the Democrats just keep running on healthcare and running on healthcare. And then when they saw that, I guess, I don't know who watched Rachel's show as part of, even Rick Scott or the other Republicans that are doing this, they literally changed their tune. And they're like, we better jump on that bandwagon. We only have 2 more weeks.
They have 11 days.
And
Jill, that's why Donald Trump is talking about a caravan, folks. A caravan that if you watch Fox News, you're not going to know this. Let me tell you the truth, folks. The caravan is over 1,000 miles away from the U.S. border. They're moving 15 to 20 miles a day. They will be here, and people can Google it. They'll be here late December, if that lucky, because it's going to be winter and they decline rough terrain. They're on the bottom of Mexico. But if you watch Fox News, it's like they're at the fence and they're trying to get in. It's 2 months away. Why is Donald Trump talking about it every day? Because the tax plan has not worked. The economy's unfortunately starting to slow a little bit. And we're the ones that gave health care, and that's the biggest issue in every poll. So he's got to scare his base. That's why a caravan, which is 2 months away, is the number one issue for Donald Trump. So, Jill, I got to go to a break, though.
Okay, thanks.
Nice chatting with you.
So much,
Let's take a quick break. Be right back.
Dean Obadala Show on Sirius XM Progress 127.